So from a satellite perspective, I think the new Commission has a real opportunity to build on all of the progress that's been made in the last cycle. With that, I'm referring to the outcomes of the World Radio Conference 2019, but also the progress that's been made in the 3GPP arena with Release 17 just having been frozen. Now, both the outcomes of WRC and the 3GPP process really paved the way for satellite in 5G, satellite integration, and so on. But in parallel, we've seen a host of projects, trials, demos that have validated satellite technology for key use cases for 5G. So what we would like to see the Commission do is really help that technology validation process now move into real end user deployments, so pilots with MNOs where they themselves are getting their hands on the satellite technology and trying it out for themselves and seeing, testing it against their criteria, their parameters and the apps and services that they want to provide. Because from our perspective, it's ready, it's validated and it's there. I think there's a couple of other elements, which is the new Commission is mandated to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals. For us, that's not just about the haves and have-nots in Africa and elsewhere. It's absolutely about improving the lives of European citizens. And so I think we have to talk about extending the reach of 5G networks, especially when you have a Commission which is even mentioning 6G. And we know that new license requirements are often calling for extension of mobile coverage as well. So I think that extending the reach of 5G networks, for example, the Commission could foster projects to establish temporary base stations in greenfield locations, maybe around a local hospital or wherever you're going to have a music festival, if it's in somewhere unusual where there's no fiber or no mobile coverage, and have a satellite backhaul linked to that. So, and see the results that it brings. I was approached earlier at the conference by somebody from Bangor University who talked about the amount of rural areas that there are in Wales and how satellite could be an ideal game changer and something that they would like to try out. And I said, well, that's great. Maybe we can see if we can work with the Commission, maybe even with the European Space Agency and some satellite operators to try to get some temporary base stations up in 1 or 2 locations, backhaul them and see how it can help. Another one is, I think we have to address the energy consumption, the power consumption of 5G. We always at 5G conferences, we hear about, the very serious 5G applications and services where the Commission and governments want to drive efficiencies and growth. So connected cars, smart cities, factories of the future. And I think we're ignoring the elephant in the room, and that is enhanced mobile broadband. We keep comparing ourselves to Korea or China, but the 5G networks there are just responding to an insatiable demand for mobile broadband. That is driven by gaming, it's driven by OTT, video, and so, all of those services, if it's an individual request, so at Christmas you give a kid a new game, the first thing he will do is download it. It's full of computer-generated imagery, ultra-high definition content. These games are very sophisticated. There's more and more people downloading them. Or if Netflix releases a new series or something, each one of these requests, whether it's for games, whether it's for video, it's an individual request and it's an individual stream. And that requires huge amounts of data processing capabilities, data management on the part of the content owner, and huge amounts of data being transmitted across networks. Now, we have spoken with mobile operating engineers. They are very interested in trying to use a satellite overlay to pre-position this essential content close to the edge. The problem is that they don't actually have the relations with content owners. So I think this is another very important opportunity for the Commission to drive new projects which are bringing together content owners with mobile operators and satellite operators and get them working together to see if we can't find a way to reduce the amount of transmission of data and try to put a cap on the amount of energy which is being consumed, because otherwise it's just going to continue to grow at a huge amount which is not sustainable for the planet. And I think it's not just about the private sector interest there. I think this is really a public sector responsibility to look at this, and that's all about enhanced mobile broadband. I think this is the third or fourth 5G event that I've been to, organised by Forum Europe, but I think we need to see it also in the context of the global series of spectrum management conferences which are also organised, because 5G is not it's not a European issue, it is a global issue. Spectrum is a global issue. So I really welcome these kind of events because it provides a platform from which the satellite community can convey its messages in a similar way across all of the regions. And in every region we realize that we are talking to a local audience and a very relevant audience. And also I see that regulators seem to come from many different countries in any given region, and that's extremely important for us. I think there's great value in repeating these events year on year, because we really get a chance to see what progress has been made. I think a year ago I wouldn't have been talking to you about the developments that the satellite operators have seen in the standardization context of 5G, and it really is a step change from what we were doing last year. So many more projects have come out, so much more technology has been validated, and so I think the events provide a good way to benchmark how much progress has been made from one year to the next.